And I thought it probably were. Sorry about that, folks. Hello, everybody. We are live. We are live, and live is whatever. Welcome to the first official sort of test run, as it were, for the new revamped and regurgitated. No, regurgitated sounds not a very good word, is it? The Inworld review. Basically, this is an old show with a new face. Either that, or it's a new show with an old face. Who knows? Who knows? I'll have to do something about this avatar. He's definitely got an old face and his lips don't move, but that's another matter entirely. Okay, well, the Inworld review has been going for a bit of a time, really. But it's at least 2, maybe even 3 years since we had a show, so to speak. And what we're to be doing in this series is looking around OpenSim particularly, and looking at various grids, getting guests on from different grids, different locations that are good to look at, different projects that are going on, etc., etc. OpenSim is very much like a sort of, I think of it as a cousin to Second Life. Second Life being the sort of the commercial high street, as it were, whereas OpenSim is the more cultured destination, shall we say? Well, most of the time, anyway. A lot's happening here, and it doesn't always get sort of enough mileage, so to speak. Anyway, we're here today to sort of launch the New York show and give you an idea of kind of what we're doing. At the far end of the couch, I've got James Atlloud, who you all know from our news show. So, hello, James. Silence is golden, isn't it, when you... We can hear you. And sitting next to me, James moved away from me because we were far too close. We were sort of snogging, thanks to the poses. So we shifted him away a bit. But next to me, for real, I've got Thursday member. Welcome, Thursday.
I promise not to snog you, Mal, but hello, everybody.
Oh.
Well, maybe later.
I was going to say, James is one thing. Never mind. Right. Yes, let's get on with the show proper, as it were. Now, Thursday, of course, is she's the person who's convened. She's been away for a while too, but convenes our Hypergrid Safari, which is once a week. She picks up about 2 destinations, and the whole club of us meet up, usually on Earth's grid, but also here on Avacon. We travel to it used to be more, but it's now just 2 destinations a week, and have a fine old time. And as a rule, I've been taking the old clip or 2 from those safaris, and rather than show them on our news, I'm going to be showing them here shortly as we go along. So Safari is one thing. Also, of course, there is some relevant news that I can sort of bring up as we go along here. So before I go on to any of the links, so to speak, I'll just say welcome back, Thursday, not just to this show, of course, but to OpenSim itself, because you have been away for a while. What inspired
Thank
you to...
That's very sweet. Thank
Yeah,
you.
well, what inspired you to return? I mean, it's not like you've returned today. You've been back a good few weeks now.
I've been back since November. Google told me there was something wrong with my Facebook password, so I stupidly came into Facebook to see what I could do to fix that, and then I sort of stayed, and from Facebook I ended up being back in Worlds, and here I am. And no, it's been great. I really didn't think... I was not planning to do anything, but then I was at the OSCC, and a season of safaris was very simply and quickly organized, and now I'm working on season 2 is already fully booked for the late spring, early summer, and I'm working on season 3, which will be in the fall, in September onwards.
This is
here
what
I am.
This is what I like to hear. Somebody who can actually work ahead. I'm like,
it's crazy, and so many people want to do something with Safari that it's very very sweet and just shows the wonderful hospitality and a sense of
Yeah.
adventure. And you've seen yourself. I don't think we've ever had a safari so far that has had fewer than 20-25 people
Yeah.
attending. So it's great. It's lovely.
I
And
remember,
thank you all for your support.
yeah, somebody I was in touch with recently. I don't think they ever, forget which one. I don't think it's somebody who's actually made it to Safari yet, but they were asking me. Oh yeah, yeah, they haven't. There's somebody who's developing a cross-world messenger service that connects OpenSim to Second Life, so for messages. But they were asking me, how many people can a safari take? I was like,
Well, you've seen how
that's
many
what,
we are. We could be up
yeah,
to. We've been up to 40. I think the
I know.
most we were was 60. Were we at the crafts
Exactly. I mean,
party, something like that?
rule of thumb is if you've got a stable sim, you can usually get away with 50. But, with people with home computers running sims and stuff, there is naturally the upper limit on OpenSim is probably 50, unless it's a multi-sim complex like the conference venues and stuff. But,
Right. Yeah.
but I mean, Safari, I mean, there's a standing joke, isn't there, really, with Safari? It's so let's see if we can crash their sim. It's a bit like a Second Life sort of thing, It's almost a game to see if we can crash.
Well, we don't really want to crash it, but it's
No,
just trying to not. Hopefully, people don't get upset if their grid or their sim does crash. That's the main thing,
yeah,
because it's certainly not any reflection on them or the quality of their technology. It's probably one of us that's got something impossible, some impossible piece of mesh on
yeah,
their avatar, or they just have a bad connection or something. That's usually the reason why we make so much lag. It's
yeah.
not the fault of the hosts at all. In fact, they're very kind. I've had people actually go out and buy extra hardware so that we could come on Safari. So they're incredibly
Oh,
generous with their time, and their hospitality is just amazing. It's always it just blows me away how kind people are and how interesting and creative they are. And every destination we go to is so different from the last one, and not all of it is necessarily everybody's taste, because tastes differ, but it's just good
yeah,
to see the diversity that's out there, and the
yeah.
passion is just incredible. How many people are making something, they're making their dreams, and they're creating something interesting and uplifting and inspiring.
And as I remember from the old times as well. It got to the point where for grids or regions on grids or something, it actually really becomes something of an event when Safari's going to visit. It's a sort of hey, we're going to have a visit from those travelling,
That's
travelling
right.
other
They worked really
side.
hard to make it happen, and
Yeah,
you saw when we were at Fedra, all the different French friends of Inis Fatwas who came along just
yeah.
to sort of support the event. It's really sweet when that happens. I love it.
And that, of course, faces the other thing, which is as we did with the international conference we did and things, but the idea of Safari is multi, not only we're traveling around OpenSim, we're traveling to different continents with different simulators on different regions. And, I mean, I know when we've talked, sort of, it's very difficult to have voice on Safari, for example, because some people talk French, some people are German, other people are English speakers. You have to ride that kind of anarchic middle ground, So it's really just a matter of everybody jumping together, and sometimes everything's in French, sometimes it's in English, but half the time it's just in text. So we trot around the old-fashioned way, but
That does make it easier for. I mean, there are people who are at work as well. I mean, apart from whether they can understand the language, but if they're in the office, they can't have the sound on necessarily. So, should I be encouraging people to be in OpenSim when they're at work? Probably not. But it does happen. But
I
anyway,
am.
this coming week will be half the time we'll be in America, and the other half of the safari is in Japan. So once
right.
again, it's an international event.
And the that big place in the middle, of course, is off the map now. Oh, shouldn't say that. Right, halfway between America and Japan. Oh, that's Britain, isn't it? Never mind. Right. Naughty me. Yeah. What was I thinking there? Now, one of the places we went to last week, I think, was we had Whirly Placebo. I've always loved. He's actually been on this show back in the day.
Yeah, he's
That was
great.
based on. I think that was based on Kitely, wasn't it?
It probably was. Yeah, I think we did
Yeah.
a Whirly concert over on Kitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll be showing some clips of those in a while, but on the screen behind me here at the moment from my desktop is it's a half-hour video. Now we're not going to show that here, but for people who want to get it, if they go to twitter.com/metaworldnews, or one word, there's various links there, many are to do with the hypergrid and OpenSim, some other things as well that we cover. But this was one of the most recent ones. It's actually on YouTube, so it's an embed, and you can follow it to YouTube if you want. But it's the CEO of Kitely, Ilan Tokma, doing a talk on the metaverse and the future of VR. And I'm just going to play a bit of it. You can see the radio waves working, but it's filmed in World, just a bit like this show.
And we are discussing virtual worlds. Ilan's background is the CEO of Kitely Virtual World Platforms, and we can do a synopsis of his background in terms of the show notes. We've been discussing a couple of questions around what virtual worlds are and how people use them. So Ilan, if you could just say what virtual worlds are and describe them to anyone who's never heard of them. We'll start with that on this occasion, and if there's anything else you want to mention, then please do.
Okay. Hi, Tina. Okay, so I'll use an analogy. People can, Google and read the Wikipedia page if they want for a more formal definition. But I think an analogy goes a long way to explaining what virtual worlds are and what their value is. Most people using computers are familiar with online 3D games where each user is the player controls a certain avatar which can move around the virtual environment.
Okay, now as I said, that's 32 minutes long. You got a flavour of the interview there, and Ilan speaking. Well worth. If you're a fan of Kitely, it's well worth listening to. But even it's well worth, playing to people who aren't necessarily familiar with virtual worlds, because obviously, Ilan runs Kitely, which is a virtual world platform. It's based on OpenSim, but there's a lot of unique features around it because he also runs the Kitely marketplace, where a lot of us on OpenSim go to buy things. Yeah, fairly integrated into the OpenSim platform. And he also has a Kitely version that's less well known. I think it's just used in the enterprise, which is a fork of Philip Rosedale's High Fidelity platform. It's a private fork as opposed to like Acadia and some of the public forks, which again is open source. Now, this video, if you go to twitter.com/metaworldnews, you'll find that it's the latest thing there. You'll find a link to it. But if you want to go straight to YouTube, you need to go to or subscribe to Virtual World Coaching Academy. You should be able to see that at the bottom of the screen there. Yeah. Yeah, I'm laughing first. Yeah,
I'm laughing because it sounds like a bus company.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, training institute or coaching academy. You're very right. Yeah.
It's a coaching academy. It sounds like you probably need it's a bus or something.
Well,
But Ilan is a great spokesperson for virtual worlds.
I know.
You can't do better than him.
And this is called Metaverse Coaching Company. Yeah, Ilan has many years of entrepreneurial experience and a profound technical knowledge of software development and management. He formerly held key positions at several startups and public companies, including CEO of ID Choice and Director of Infrastructure Development at OmniSky. And he holds an MBA from Tel Aviv University and has a BSc in computer science from somewhere else, which I can't see.
From the very famous school of somewhere else. Yes, yeah. We've all been there.
All been there. Oh, I remember my years at somewhere else.
At somewhere else, yes. I've got the sweatshirt somewhere from somewhere else.
Yeah, yeah, that's somewhere else. I know, yeah, somewhere. What was the L for in somewhere else? It was S for somewhere, and then I suppose the L's for else, isn't it? Else.
Probably.
Yeah. Okay. We'll stick with that. Okay. So I'll get this off the screen for the moment. Now you're going to know what's coming up next here, Cesar. You're definitely going to know what's coming up here. Of course, I love this play on words. Cornography.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah. And afterwards, I thought that was probably inappropriate, but it was too
I
late.
thought,
So.
I thought it's great. I mean, it catches the eye, doesn't it? Yeah. Sorry, our screen.
I
The
hate
title.
it when it happens that I realize I did something wrong, and then it's like an hour after I published it, and 100 people have already seen it. And I'm like, oh boy.
Actually, the position of our broadcast frame means that if I would need to fiddle around here, which I'd rather actually not do. But yeah, the title is corn, as in corn, flakes, and then dash O and then dash Gruffy. I think it sounded quite fine. I thought it was kind of funny. Anyway, yeah. Now last week was something called Cornflakes Week, so the stop, as it were, both stops really in different places that were parts of Cornflakes Week. One was very familiar area, which we've been to before, but the second part was actually Whirly Placebo playing in, I guess it was a skybox or something that was a completely different.
It was a skybox above our clubhouse on Osgrid.
Oh, wow.
And the first place where we went was you're right, it's very familiar. The sim itself is the Cornflakes tribute sim, but it has had to move. Originally, Word from the Wise, who was gifted the sim by Cornflakes before he passed away, he had that region on Metropolis Grid. But of course, about, I guess, 2 years ago, a Metropolis Grid, basically the people who run the grid have not been maintaining it quite at the usual level. And so Word from the Wise has moved his region, and in fact he has 30 regions on a much smaller grid. Although I don't think we noticed that it was a lot, the performance was fine as far as I could tell. But I think a few people were a bit blocked, but it seemed okay to me. Anyway, he has a bunch of regions on his own grid, basically. And it's called Scripted Art or something like that. It's at the end of the article. You'll find the address of the grid. And also on the various notices on Facebook and MeWe and everywhere. So.
Well, I'll just say, yeah. So this blog post anyway is HG Safari. That's HGSAFARA.blogspot, which you probably know .com. And yeah, on my Twitter feed you get the exact link. But this is the most recent post there. So if you just go to the website, you'll see this at the top of the list. As Fuzz has just told us, it was all about Cornflakes Week. Okay. Right. Well, we're going to keep talking about that for a minute or two because I'm going to switch from here to actually the video player. So when I said we started off this, I'm going to play it so we can talk over it basically because it's just music. All these wonderful faces of people who come with us on the safari here, you probably know them by their avatar better than I do, actually.
Yeah, that was Ariana, who that's actually her first time coming with us. I think that looks like Nara to me. Yeah, that's Nara.
Yeah, we started with Nara.
Can't miss with her.
That was a very short clip, wasn't it? Okay, right, yeah, this one, this is 2 minutes long. This one is downstairs, the first region again. This gives you an idea of all the weird and wonderful stuff that makes up.
Yeah. The great thing about Cornflakes' creations is that a lot of people just dismiss them as, oh, it's just prims and it's very childish maybe, and it's sort of very simplistic. But when you consider the detail. In
Yeah.
fact, when you cam in on any single item, you realize how much skill has gone into it, and then of course what it's talking about. Obviously, the soldiers are a great metaphor for this particular week. But
Absolutely.
every
Yeah.
single thing he made has you could, it has a little story to itself if you just look at it close enough. I mean, that's it, the example of the clothespin is a great one. Just pinching up on
Yeah.
the world.
Yeah. Yeah, there was so much stuff here. I mean, yeah, at first glance you think it's a toy box or something, like this guy going in circles around his pipe and whatever. But you're right, you know, and I noticed this whilst I was coming in to take these shots and stuff, you know. Probably going closer than I would necessarily go if it was just me fiddling around and sort of seeing the amount of detail that's actually in so many of these things. As you say, it's not everybody's cup of tea. To be honest, a lot of it's not really my cup of tea. But you can't not admire the actual work that's gone into it.
You know, it's interesting to me that I see that you're there recording in the with the sun in the sky, the middle of the day, and I love going to this region at nighttime because everything glows so pretty. So
I must,
That's a good point. Yeah. I think we instinctively put daylight just whenever we go on safari. Well, I do it anyway, just because I know I'm afraid of being lost.
Yeah, and I don't think I consciously do either. I usually settle with whatever the default wind light on where I arrive is, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I know full well that I can change it for myself, but somehow I just assume it's meant to be seen the way it is when I land, you know.
Well, you know how I love using Firestorm, so moving the sun around the sky is really fun. I like that.
I gotta try that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, who needs land? We got virtual sun to play with.
That's right.
Right, now let me see. This is 51 seconds or so. I think this is relevant to the, or maybe this is a little clip that's fallen into place here by mistake. Oh no! Okay.
There you go.
I wonder what it was for a minute. Of course, it's the back side. There's a different image on the other side of that. There's a Christmas tree and good grief, it's our Prim. A famous box. The original on NFT, apparently. Because it has copy mod. It has copy mod and transfer. That's what an NFT has. All it needs now is export so you can shift them around between worlds. There we go. Okay, and then I've got a couple of other. I've got more than those, to be honest. We've had enough of that one.
So I wanted to say a word about the concept behind Cornflakes Week. Some people, particularly people perhaps who knew cornflakes, take it, and obviously the whole idea of Cornflakes Week is that you could take it any way you like, just like any other holiday. You celebrate it in the way you wish, you know, whether it's Thanksgiving or Easter or Christmas. In the real world, people celebrate them in all kinds of different ways, or they don't celebrate at all, and that's fine too. And the thought was behind Cornflakes Week is that it would be an event that would last a whole week, which meant that whenever you have your weekly get together on your grid, you could just transform it just for that 1 week into a cornflakes style event, which is exactly what's happened, for example, on
by the way,
World.
I'll just interrupt what we're seeing here for viewers at home.
Yes. So what happened with this is I asked Cherry Manga to reinvent cornflakes if she was willing to do it. And she said, well, I'm not that familiar with his work. I don't know if it's really my thing. So I gave her a few of his pieces and she took them away and she came back and said, I'm in love with this. I have to do this. I want to reinvent and reimagine the whole thing as Kelso. And that's exactly what she did. She sort of brought the cornflakes concept, which was in the 2000s into the 2020s. So it's a reinvention of the idea, and it just shows that you don't have to be stuck with the prims necessarily. You could just make it any way you like.
Yeah, this is fascinating. I went out. I crashed, I think, from the other place, and when I logged back in, I came straight to Destination 2, which of course was up here, and it was empty. And I remember mystified, sort of looking around. Of course, eventually I saw that beyond all these bubbles and things, there was actually a stage. Now, it wasn't active on that clip where we're talking now, but lo and behold, let's go for the other. I think there's 2 more here, so I'll look at them. This is Whirly Placebo, who is great, by the way. You can actually hear him playing in the background here. It's 30 seconds of part of his song, and I forget who the camera is following here, but I did an option clip job, so I was actually following her. She had
Looks
this,
like Tina to me, Tina
it's
Bay.
Tina, of course. Yeah, it's Tina Bay, because she's actually wearing a virtual skateboard, which you can just see on her feet there. And that was she was obviously riding that up and down all these bubbles. So I thought, well, I'm going to film that.
That's classic Tina. She's a very creative lady.
So we got Tina on her board, and we got Whirly Placebo playing in the background here. So lovely for sure.
That's cool.
So I left my home. Lord, I used to be good, but now I'm so bad.
And that's so cool because you got Tina, who's been with us from the beginning of Safari.
Yeah.
And the guy you just saw for a moment, I think his name's Casey, and this was his first day in OpenSim. So you have the full spectrum of people who have been on Safari lots of times, and people who are brand new in OpenSim itself. and exploring it via Safari. Yeah.
How did the new guy get on? Did you?
I think he was confused.
Well, I suppose the first Safari will confuse anybody, especially something like this.
I'm still confused. So
yeah, there's a little shot that cube. Oh, I think I know that guy. There's the cube down there was a stage where he was on a stool performing, which was empty when we saw it in the previous clip. But oddly enough, when the performer was inside the cube, what was transparent as a stage to us in the audience was opaque to him inside.
Right.
I'm sure he cammed out rather than do a whole set to patterns, but it was when you come round and found yourself on the inside, where the bloody audience gone? But they were there. They were just on the other side. Okay, I think I've got one final clip here. It looks like it. I just need to double check. Yeah, that's the one where we had Tina flying around. Yeah, okay. I think. Oh, this is 3 minutes. Oh, hang on. No, I've got another. I don't think have we done this one? Oh, yeah, we did that one. Right. So another final 3 minutes here again with music.
Just so beautiful.
Yeah, trying to get everybody in here, but of course it takes a lot of coming around. Everybody's dancing quite spread out, so.
Yeah, but that box is absolutely enormous. So yeah.
It is Whirly.
Yes.
He's got a great deep voice, hasn't he? Like
he does.
Johnny Cash.
He's gorgeous. And he was very interested in understanding the message behind the event. So rather than just showing up and playing his set and that's it. So it's a very, very positive experience, I think, for all of us. It's lovely when someone takes that much interest in what's going on.
Well, he's very familiar to me. I think I had him on this show many times ago. But what was funny, I've always sort of thought of him as a Second Life and Open Sim, troubadour all over the place. But I don't think we got the actual lyrics running at the moment. But there were quite a few things he was saying and singing about, which weren't at all kind to a certain other place,
Yeah, probably just as well.
Yeah, I mean, he was light-hearted about it, but
There's Luna Lunaria. Who's that? I think that's Luna Decal.
Oh, there's James with his cornflakes hat on.
And there's James with his signature dance. So many videos of James dancing.
With
He's
my
gone
cornflakes, my cornflakes hat from several years ago, I think.
That's Cherry. That's Cherry's avatar that she made especially for the event. And there's George.
Yeah, well, Cherry just matches the whole build she's made, doesn't she?
Yeah. That's a good thing and a bad thing, because she did the same thing on the final safari. Oh, that's Afra. And she was basically invisible because she was so much like the decor that you could see.
Yeah. Oh, it's what they call camouflage. Oh, Tina again, yeah.
There she is.
Yeah, she's fully equipped as well, not just
I
a skateboard.
missed her so much. She's such a lovely lady. She makes so many wonderful things, and she gives them away. You can go to Lani Mall in Osgrid, and you can find her creations.
And I forget her name. The lady from the week before actually had clothes on this week, which was nice of her.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I forget her name.
It was an easy jump this week. It wasn't that stressful. So.
Oh, there we go. Finishing as usual with me posing on the spot. I think that's it. I think that's it for my offline videos. But hopefully what we'll be doing each week here is the more we get this on, the better, because we get some ready-made commentary. But, making clips, from the destinations, while we're on one, and then showing them on the show at the weekend. And then, where possible, getting guests on who are going to be on safari next week, and getting some photos on the screens behind us of what.
And of course, in this case, it was a concert, so obviously that's a one-off. But generally speaking, all the destinations, if people want to go to them, if they're obviously people who are in the United States, often they're not available at that time of day on a Wednesday. But if anybody wants to go to the destinations on their own afterwards or with friends, the landmarks, I leave them in the box all week. So anybody coming by the clubhouse on HG Safari on Osgrid, they can pick them up and go and see the places for themselves. And I think a lot of people go back the next day because the experience of safari is a bit chaotic. Yeah. And it's fun to go back afterwards and say, oh, okay, what was I trying to look at in all that confusion, and just visit the place, Well,
on last week's show, it wasn't really an Inworld review yet. It's a dummy run, but I was showing clips of that wonderful first stop where all those the place in the sky, basically, that has
Fedra. Yes, that's brilliant.
I can't imagine even trying to build all those walkways, going to different heights and twisting around and things. And when I panned out, it just looked like a big, amazing build. But the more you panned in, you realise how gigantic it was. We
didn't even get halfway up it. There's the Italian village and the Roman remains, and then all the way up to the very top, the radio station. It's really worth going back and discovering the walkways and going on up. It's a lot of fun.
That's exactly what I was thinking of when you say, keep the landmarks, for God's sake. You might want to go back, And I've got folders and folders. There's a safari landmark. So
this might be a good time to mention that this time we're doing the safari in seasons. So it's a 10-week season, and then there's a break. But during the break, we're going to be having self-guided tours available. There are going to be 6 or 7 destinations that are themed. So it'll be an art theme or library theme or science theme. So you'll be able to pick up the landmarks and go to these places and sort of experience a range of places that have the same kind of theme and see the variety that is available. All people all doing something similar, but never quite the same. And so
Yeah.
those are going to be start showing up and being available from the end of March.
Aye. But didn't we do something, was it a year or two ago at the OSCC that was a bit like that?
Well, we had a scripting showcase trail,
That's
which
right,
was
yeah.
that's a but that yeah, and that I had people come and tell me years afterwards that they were still using those landmarks because some of those places
Yeah.
still exist. But obviously, there's always the issue that regions move and grids disappear and people move their grids and move their regions. So because of that, you sort of have to renew these things. But yeah, hopefully a scripting one will be one of the themes in these self-guided tours. It makes it a little bit easier for people because then they can go anytime they like, and it also makes it a lot easier on the Sims because you don't have 20 people arriving all at once.
Exactly. I mean, it's I remember in Second Life where popular venues can get very crowded and laggy at the best of times, you know. So, people say these are social worlds, which they are. It's great fun to get in a club and go and explore things. But sometimes I just like going, especially if I've got a horse I can ride or something, go somewhere where there's nobody, where there's no lag and it's fast and I can just play some music and trot around and
Absolutely.
horse enjoy the landscape. So it's not, it can, if it's what you want, solitude or meditation almost, it's all there as well as the great social worlds are part of it as
That's
well.
true, and it's also for example, if you have somebody who's fairly new to OpenSim or fairly new to virtual worlds, it, it depends. I mean, personalities are different. Some people enjoy the chaos, but for some people that just makes it super stressful. So it could be a good way to explore, and of course, these self-guided tours, that is certainly by no means the only way to explore OpenSim. Lots of different people have tours, or they have a lot of portals. So there's loads and loads of different ways that you can explore it. But what I wanted to do was try and theme it. So you can go and see, for example, the libraries. Nara Malone is doing a new build for us to be one of the literary destinations.
Right.
And the art, obviously, there's lots of artistic regions. That's one of the main things, isn't it, in OpenSim? So it'll be broken up into 3 or 4 different tours that you can take. And people like Emil Flux or Ngrid, which I think very few people visit these days, but they're beautiful grids full of fantastic big art, and they've agreed to be part of the tours already, and they're excited to be part of that. So hopefully it's a way that people can not only discover old things, but they can discover new things, and they can meet hopefully like-minded people and get ideas of how to organize themselves in OpenSim. Because one of the problems is, whereas in Second Life, if you're interested in making art or making anything, you very quickly can get a following. There's lots of ways to make yourself known. The problem is in OpenSim is so often the lack of communication. You have this beautiful thing and nobody knows it's there.
Yeah.
So, and you're too busy making it to go out and tell people
That's
about it.
it. That's
Or
the thing.
maybe just you're not that way inclined, that you just don't push yourself
I,
forward enough. So
yeah.
the idea of these tours is that there's an intermixing of people who get a chance to see what you do, and maybe there's an interchange of encouragement and of ideas.
Very much so. I mean, I know as my background is design and art and stuff, even though it's not what I'm doing so much now. But, if I'm in my regions or something and I'm building away and things like that, I just get on with it. I don't think about going and say, "Hey, come here and look at it," or concentrate on going out and advertising it. It just seems to go against the grain. I'm just one just likes creating, and kind of hoping that people see it somehow. So yeah, I mean anything that brings not just a social thing of meeting and going to various grids, but sometimes that thing of you get it in the unmentionable place, of course, where you've got things like the machinima clubs and things. You've got people who do these particular things in world who have clubs just of their own. They're like not professional societies, but they're like clubs to go around, but they're all of the same ilk. In other words, they would go together to look at spaces that are good for filming, right? Because
Right.
good for filming is the thing they have in common, but of course they're still a social club in their own right, so they mix the socialization with the theme, as it were, of what they want to do. Same with in Second Life, for example. Oh god, I mentioned that name again, haven't I? But there's a lot of book clubs, yeah.
That's true.
People who read books and want to just sit there like they do in real life and talk about the book they're reading, and often they're sharing the same book, so they're talking about the same thing, and nothing like a bit of obsession, basically.
Well, that's the beauty of virtual worlds. So it doesn't matter what you're interested in. There should be a way that you can meet up with like-minded people.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, it tends to go down certain classic lines, but I mean, the more different and diverse we are, the better, surely.
Yeah, well, exactly. You get big clubs and small clubs and couple clubs. But yeah, the whole spectrum is there, really.
Yes.
So it's, yeah. And there's weird things you can do. Something I found that was totally unimaginable when I started, but I got what ended up being 5 regions, or that's sorry, 25 regions. It was a VAR 5x5 on a grid called Metaworld, which isn't up at the moment, but it's just somewhere to hang out on my own and mess around. And increasingly, I found I went into the sky with all this mesh landscape and stuff. I basically drowned the entire 5 regions and then remade the land with mesh sculpts, And I did it from the sky, and I made these things huge, and I was sort of dropping them to the land and then dropping a bit more there. And when I had it looking like I wanted, I actually went down to ground level and stood in what I'd done. And it wasn't like I'd done it. It was like a world to explore, because from the sky, I had no idea, except for like a map frame of mind, what I was doing. Well, I had some idea, but when I actually got down to the ground level, I said, "Oh, I've made a cave there, and there's a nice little trail here, which I didn't know about. I was in the sky; I was too far away to see it, so I was doing 2 things at once. I was visualizing a map and dropping stuff into it from overhead, then actually exploring what I'd done with no idea what I'd done at detail level.
Fantastic.
So that was like an adventure, but it only involved me."
But I think that's true. That's true also when people come and visit a region. It gives the builder the opportunity, especially if as I've noticed, most of the people who come with us on safari, they're very polite. They usually, that it may not be to their taste, and they may have lag or various problems, but they try not to be but they try and be constructive and complimentary. But you see people evolving their style of build to accommodate people. Because there is this tendency, if you're not used to having a lot of guests on your region, you want them to come. It's not that you don't want them to come. You really wish that people would come and see your region, but then you don't build it in such a way that it is visitor friendly, because you're used to it, and you lose that perspective. So that's another reason why it's so, I think one of the useful things about Safari for the creative person is that it gives them a little bit more perspective about how their work is perceived, and how it plays when real people are there, because it's very easy to build something just for yourself. But then, where does that go? That's
It's
just
like you have to, it's like, you're getting the opportunity to talk people through what you built, but you have to have a start point. When you're in it yourself,
exactly,
you don't bother with a start
exactly.
point. Who needs a start point? Yeah, no, it's quite wonderful there. Well, we'll move back to this in a minute. I've now loaded another web page here, which I think is relevant to us. We're talking about art and music and all the destinations, but another type of thing we had this. The chap who posted this blog, AI Austin, he was on safari about, I think it's about 3 weeks ago, and one of our stops was literally a campfire or something. He basically gave us an hour-long talk about using something called the suitcase, which is a way of transferring assets between grids in
Yes, that's
OpenSim.
his concept for not really even between grids, but between completely different virtual platforms.
Yeah,
That's his idea.
yeah. I mean,
Which,
when OpenSim started, I mean,
okay.
if you go to something like Second Life, for example, an aging cousin of OpenSim, I shall call it for the moment, they don't have such a thing as a suitcase because they're totally a walled gardens. So your inventory goes around with you wherever you go. But in OpenSim, it's like you're getting on an aircraft to hyperjump to between grids. So you need to take a suitcase with you, and you put in your suitcase the stuff you want to travel with, and you keep in your main inventory stuff that you want to keep on your home grid. And there's an art to that. Organizing when you're going on when I'm coming on safari, for example, my suitcase is normally empty except for what I'm wearing, but it's there to pick up anything I pick up on the safari kind of thing. And then
I
after
feel bad now because mine's usually got like 2,000 things in it.
yeah, there is a bit of discipline, but since I got this new avatar here, I've been, for the moment, I've been keeping it under control. I've got what inventory I've built up here, but also every time, once a day or something, I'm in World anyway, I copy everything in my suitcase back into my inventory, when on my own grid. So yeah, discipline. But anyway, I mentioned that because AI Austin, literally gave a talk for an hour on safari. So it's not all just visiting destinations and taking them in. Sometimes it's educational, in a virtual world sense, I suppose. This is actually his blog, and you can see from the title here, if we have the screen up, it's called The History of Second Life and OpenSim VR Viewers. Now, what he means by VR viewers, it's a bit awkward. This is for helmet wearers, really. People who wear those helmet things, which you won't get me doing, although James is fond of them. But there have been some variations to the viewers for Second Life and OpenSim that actually do accommodate the helmets and different kinds of viewers. They're not official, and they're not perfect because the worlds themselves are not designed to be a 3D immersive environment. They're a 3D environment. You can turn around and move around and everything else, but they're not designed where you look up to the sky and look down on the ground without using special cameras and things. So but some people have got around it a bit like the early Google Cardboard things where you've got two views of the same thing that are slightly offset, so they give you a 3D illusion. There's a version of Kirsten's Viewer, for example, that have the red and cyan glasses. So anyway, I won't really go into it, but this post, which you'll find at his site, has a good deal of information too. Control Alt Studio is a famous one, and an experimental one from Linden Labs too. You'll find this post at blog, that's blog.inf.ed.ac.uk. And you'll also find a direct link to the article at twitter.com/MetaWorldNews if you need it. So, but it's quite just appropriate that I have that link up, but also the fact that he himself, the author of the blog, AI Austin, has been on safari lecturing us, for want of a
Yes, very interesting.
moving on, links wise, that is. It's funny, this site used to be a key place to go, and indeed Maria Goranov used to go as the news with me, but oh dear, God, privacy, transparency,
Oh
etc.
gosh, we couldn't live without hypergrid business. I use that like 50 million times a day.
Yeah.
I can never
I-
remember any grid address. I have no
No,
memory. So I
it's
use it like it's my phone book. I use it all
yeah.
the time. I
Well,
try not to read the comments because they're always kind of
are you thinking
inflammatory.
of hypergrid business or Hyperia?
No,
That
I use hypergrid business. They've got a grid,
right.
a live grid page that
Yeah.
has there's a couple of typos in it, but it's really
Oh,
incredibly well written, I think,
yeah.
and
I
it's
know.
very, very handy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's become very odd over the years because there are a lot of posts here that you never see. They don't come through my RSS, and I miss them because this one, for example, the headline is "The Metaverse Land Shrinks, but Usage Grows." This was posted, by the way, a few days ago, 19. But in fact, when you scroll down, you get a bit of detail, including the obligatory graph, about this. But then the further down you go, you actually find there's a lot more information that isn't really
She's
mentioned
wonderful, Maria.
in
She
the
always got
title.
so much information.
Well, most
I
of
don't
this seems
always
to
have
be,
time to read the whole thing, but it's worth
yeah,
going back again and
a lot
again
of
because she's
yeah, a
brilliant.
lot of this seems to be David Karuki, who seems to run a lot of stuff for her. I've never
Yeah,
seen
he's
him
a
in
great
World anywhere.
journalist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's it's
I
like
love the
every
way that's a headline, virtual world giving away free regions. Like that's always happened. What how is that a headline?
yeah, it's a bit, but making, yeah. I don't know. You're right. It's about more and more, though. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in the newspaper itself, as I think of it, that is not about the hypergrid. This particular one is, but you wouldn't believe, for example, that you've got a post about DigiWorld's building
That's
blocks and
super.
stuff. Because this is all on the same page, and I'm used to sites that where every article is a new post instead of a
Yeah,
post.
no, they don't do it that way. They do it
Yeah,
different.
exactly. So it's always a
I
good
just don't
resource.
appreciate the comments because the comments are always like somebody with irritable bowel syndrome or
Yeah,
something. Because they're always like, oh my gosh, why are you even bothering to comment? You got nothing
yeah.
nice to say. Just leave it. If
I
you don't
I
agree with the
very,
article, just leave it.
I very
We don't
rarely
need to
read.
know about your intestinal problems.
I very rarely ever read comments anyway, except possibly in Discord groups. It's like people. It's like people who sort of there's like, I avoid saying anything, but like on Twitter or something, I've stopped following metaverse tags because they almost become meaningless now, and I've always followed people that I've connected with through virtual worlds and stuff like that. The last thing I want to see is a picture of their dinner, let alone especially if it's a meat dinner, you know. And
Mal's
I,
taking me very
I,
literally.
I was scrolling because of the obviously dreadful real world news at the moment. I was scrolling through
Yeah.
Twitter for various links like that and things. And I just wanted to shout. I said, "For God's sake, you guys! There is a major crisis happening in the entire world these days, and all you can do is post a picture of your fucking dinner."
Well, it might have been a good dinner. Now I'm curious.
But no, it is that kind of thing. Anyway, getting back to this, I mean, one of the posts down here, of course, buried down the page, which deserves a
Oh,
post of its own.
that's a shame that it's buried. Yeah,
Yeah,
because this is the most important thing that's
yeah.
happening this year. This first half of the year is the Open Sim Fest. Can't wait for it. I'm looking forward to it.
July the 8th to the 25th,
That's correct.
and they have their own grid, the Open Sim Festival grid, which they're hoping to complete by June the 30th. Cesar and I were talking before we came on air, actually, and
Yeah, it's very important that people who want to get a build
yeah,
area, you need to register. It's very simple. I did it. It takes a couple of seconds, and then you get a virtual ticket. But the point is, they know that you want to have a plot, and they can start organizing so that they can tell how many plots they need, how many regions they need, and so forth. So it's even if you're not ready to build yet, that doesn't matter. You just need to book your or reserve your plot There's no charge, so it doesn't matter. You know, you don't have to worry about that you're spending money or anything, obviously. But that just helps the organization team to organize how many resources they need to make the thing work. And of course, if people do want to contribute, they can do that as well, because obviously it's costing the organizers money to run the servers. Obviously, the volunteers are all doing it for free, but you know there is a certain amount of actual dollar cost to an event like that, and you can become a sponsor. So there's loads and loads of information on the OpenSimFest website. It's worth taking a look and just registering.
I think I don't think there was one last year.
No, there was none last year because of the pandemic situation.
Yeah.
So they skipped a year, but it's back on track.
Back and under new management to a certain extent as well, I think. Yeah. Well, we will endeavour to get them on the programme. Oh, Cheryl, I forget her name.
Yeah, Shalane and her whole team there.
I contacted her this week, so hopefully I can just pull her on next week or sometime. Yeah, the point is, it is a few weeks away, but on the other hand, it's not very far in the future if you actually want to register to build or to have a stand or whatever. You can get a free parcel, contact the organisers via Facebook, Twitter, or on their Discord group, which I tend to think is the best. Okay, alternate metaverse. There's just too many metaverses. I used to have channels for all on my server, but now I don't. I mean, if somebody gets in touch and says, "Can you have my grid?" I will, but it would take me too long to go and find Kinky Haven and all. There we are, Kinky Haven.
And yet, it might be worth your while, Mal. You never know.
Oh yeah,
I have a feeling you might find a friend.
What,
oh, we're going to Wildwood. I see Wildwood written right there. We're going to Wildwood. In 2 weeks, we're going to Wildwood. We're going to do Carnivale. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, there are, as you can see, there are a hell of a lot of listed here anyway. And yeah, there's David. So always a good site to pop into. It does often feature things that aren't to do with the hypergrid, but most of what David writes here, as opposed to Maria, does tend to be focused on OpenSim. So the address you want for this is very simple, if rather long. Hypergridbusiness.com, hypergridbusiness.com. And of course, a direct link to the articles. Twitter.com/Metaworld News as well. All right, coming down the list here. Oh, now we mentioned AI Austin a minute ago. And I've got another tab to open from him here too, which is slightly different. In Discord, I and a few other people you would know, well, quite a lot of us actually, are members of something called the Open Metaverse Initiative. It's dubious what we mean by metaverse these days, but never mind. And basically, Austin has suddenly decided that you know they ought to have a place they can meet, literally a grid of their own on OpenSim. Most of the people in the group, to be honest, they're not even familiar with OpenSim or Second Life or that genre of thing. You know, they're from all over the place. Discussing interop and common protocols and stuff like that, but AI obviously thought, well, I can go to OS Grid and make a region for them to meet should they want to. So he's done it. So I popped in there. It's very basic build full of some of the older. Anybody remember Clever Zebra? They produced a lot of the early conference builds and things
nice classic style.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, this is a build he's got. It's in OS Grid, or OS Grid, as Floza calls it, which, by the way, is OS Grid.
Yeah, sorry about that.
OSG are in capitals, and then RRD is lowercase. But that's actually a region. That's actually a grid. Many regions, like the one where Safari Clubhouse is, are actually on that grid. So you would go to OS Grid, log in OS Grid, whatever, : port number, and then : HG Safari. standard way of getting in and out of places, basically. So anyway, he just I was amazed how quickly he did this. Although of course a lot of what he did would have been based on templates he already had. There he is in the flesh, by the way. It's a bit distant for you to see, and that's his avatar where my mouse is, and that's him himself. And I'm not that. Don't know what that meeting is, but it's not OMI, I can tell you that. It's obviously a stock photograph to show the build. Yeah, and a whole list of collaboration places he's added there. So once again, this is blog.inf.ed.ac.uk, and you can find it by actually going. This web page was reloaded because of a problem. Gosh golly, I don't know the sound of that. Right, okay. We're going to have a white screen for a second. Okay, so yeah, that was okay. Now, the only other thing here for this week, right, is again, I posted it. It's another YouTube video, which I actually posted on the Metaworld News blog. So we'll have a look at it here. Okay. So this is a region called Vintage Garden, and it's a grid called the VWZ grid, which I haven't come across before. Looks like I'm the only person who's viewed this, so you're joining me. I'll just scroll down here. In fact, just a second. I'll reduce the volume here because we're talking over it. Astrid Online is the YouTube account, the person who put this up there. I've obviously subscribed, so I will see more from her in future. I don't know whether you know this. Amazing video made in something called Video Studio, which is software, but by somebody called Asaya Desno, who's Italian, by the way, although I don't know whether you come across him.
Not so far, no.
Has a detailed. Well, it's like asking me if I know an advertiser in Britain. You know, he has such a detailed and artistic view. We fit like a puzzle, she says. And
Okay.
yeah, that's the. It's just the music credits, as it were.
Very pretty.
It's really nice. Film, you know, it looks like something I might have filmed on the safari, really, doesn't it?
It does a bit, yeah.
Anyway, we'll let it play there, because that's actually the last thing to load onto our screen, so to speak. So, James, have you got any questions? Well, you obviously come on safari with us most weeks when you can make it.
I try.
As you said, you can go on safari from work if you really want to.
That's right. That's right. I do. Yeah.
Your voice has got very low, actually. I don't know whether that's
Oh, I'm sorry.
lower than we were before.
I don't see a change here. Sorry.
Okay, I better. I'll try and lower this music even more then.
Okay. Well, I like to attend from work, so that's and it works out quite nicely. So.
I think you're going to enjoy next week on Wednesday, which is going to be two very, very different builds. One is Cherry Manga's brand new build, which is a sort of a tower of I think it's 7 or 8 different levels, and each one is an installation, one of her classic installations, but reworked for a smaller environment. It's very pretty, and each one has a song that goes with it. And we're going to discover whether or not that works with 20 people.
Well, let's see.
All hitting the jukebox and trying to make it work. So that'll be interesting.
You're making me look at my work calendar on the weekend.
And the second build is it's in Kitely, and it's called Coopersville, and it's by Koshari. What she's done is she's reimagined an Edwardian town in the United States, and so you've got the vintage costumes and buildings from the time, and then on top of that there's planes, biplanes that you can fly, and there's a
Oh,
fun fair. There's various things to do. There's a few shops. It's very, very cute and
oh, how
extremely
amazing!
careful attention to detail. So that's going to be lovely.
I'm looking forward to it, and I am free.
Oh,
I'll
good.
take my
Wonderful.
lunch on safari. Whee!
I can pause that. Oddly enough, I don't think it was your voice, James, that was so low. It's just I lowered the volume here. Oh, and it lowered everything because the volume control on the actual clip here is not working. So it's a choice of hearing you and everything else loud, or muting everything.
The irony.
Oh, the irony, yes, indeed. I will leave that picture on the screen. But if you want to watch that in full, it is 15 minutes long, and it's a lovely piece of film. You'll find it, the YouTube link you'll find on the twitter.com/Metaworld News stream. And it's simply called Vintage Garden at the VWZ Grid, and published by somebody called Astrid Online. I really love it. You know, there's loads of stuff coming up every day from Second Life, and it's got its interface showing, or it's amateur, and I keep thinking of the golden age of machinima and shows in Second Life, and I don't know where they are now. Even LabGab, which is one that's done officially by Linden Labs, is a disgraceful production. By my standards, of course, James will tell you that I'm fussy, but but often it is actually looking at the open sim things. You know, I see, that looks like a lovely, machinima or something, and it's not from Second Life. It's actually from here, from open sim. And I would certainly never have heard of this if I hadn't just come across the video on YouTube. So it just goes to show there's a million ways of getting the message out. I'm actually horrified to see this has only had 2 views, and they're probably both me, one now and one before. I don't know, but given the quality of the filming and also the build that they're actually filming, look, all these books and things, it's wonderful. This would be Nara's cup of tea as well, wouldn't it? All the booky kind of things. So anyway, that's it for our visual components. So I was asking James, of course, if he had any other questions for Thursday. Couldn't hear myself think over that.
No, I really enjoy the safari. So it's
Well, we appreciate
brilliant.
having you
Just
with
brilliant.
us, James. Thank you for
Thanks.
your support.
Oh, sure.
And Thursday, I mean, any other thoughts from you? I mean, a lot of what we've gone through so far has been prompted by the stuff I've been putting up on screen, but we've probably covered an awful lot anyway, haven't we? So.
I'd just like to invite everybody to come and see this region. It's called Safari. It's on Avacon Grid. It's our new annex to the main clubhouse, which is on OS Grid, or OS Grid, as Mal says. And this region has a little shop with a few odds and ends, but the main thing is that it has the Inworld review studio, so people can come. If they're in World, they can come on over to Avacon Grid and they can be in the audience. So that's a new thing, I think. Certainly recently that hasn't been possible, so it could be a lot of fun to have everybody come and join us, or join you rather, during the show, and be a bit of fun, make a bit of a party of it.
I'm panning around the region now, so there's the landing spot.
Yes,
the truck, the pickup truck.
Yeah,
very nice.
It's different from the other safari regions, simply because somebody said to me, well, just copy the ore and bring it to the other grid. But if I do that, I'll forget which Thursday I am.
Right.
And where I am.
Oh,
I've done that in the past with embarrassing consequences.
I remember
each one looks different.
I do remember we made duplicates of the clubhouse way back even on a Great Canadian Grid.
It wasn't
and
good.
of various places, and yeah, it did get confusing when you just.
And you're
I've
like,
often,
well, I can't understand why I can't see that person online, and it's because you're in the wrong avatar to,
Mm.
Anyway, I'm already a bit confused anyway, so it helps if each land is completely different.
That's right. Are we still figuring out the metaverse? Would you say we're still figuring it out?
I'm still figuring out the real world. So.
Oh, well, that too.
yeah. Oh, I'm sure we are, because our idea
I
of the
think we're pretty
metaverse.
far ahead though, because if those other guys have got no legs and they
Yeah.
think
Right,
everybody should
right.
just be a furry that belongs in a dustbin, from judging
Yeah,
by
we
that
have.
video that was on at the Super Bowl, we're all
Yeah,
basically just losers that
Oh, that
belong in
they
a
poor,
have no
dustbin if we're
poor
idea.
using
furry.
virtual worlds. So
I
Yeah.
think.
that was
I
just
think
sad.
I think the thing is that we've maybe for 2 decades almost been talking about the metaverse, but it's a very nebulous thing. It's like a sort of destination based on our experiences with virtual worlds and immersive spaces and stuff as they've been, even long before the helmet jobs came along, which I personally, I mean, there's nothing wrong with them, but I think they're unimportant to the equation of some kind of conceptual metaverse. But it's like the news item we had on the news earlier about metaverse is nothing until there are standards, and it doesn't matter how many. Everybody in the planet could be opening up their new metaverse, but they don't know what the metaverse is. There are no standards for it, so it becomes meaningless. I don't search my feeds every morning anymore I don't have a tag to scan for metaverse because there is
Because
no
it's just
point.
become a meaningless buzzword,
Yeah,
and
it's a
then next
buzzword.
time, in a little while, it'll be another buzzword, and metaverse
Yeah,
will be forgotten.
I can't wait for something to take over from metaverse so
I
I can
keep
get back to.
saying
I want to.
we shouldn't call it a metaverse. We should call it meta pros, because it's a very prosaic, ordinary workaday place where people do practical things. They make builds. They visit with their friends. They educate people. It's a prosaic place, so let's not call it verse. Let's just call it pros, meta pros. That's where I'm going with it.
The other thing I kind of found was for a lot of time I've been racking my brains for a name. I mean, I stand as much chance as making something viral as anybody else. But I think the problem with Metaverse is that it became, for something that's so very descriptive, it was hijacked very much as a noun. Yeah. Now, if you have a noun which is ill-defined, anybody can nick it, But if you have some kind of combination of words which is like adjective or descriptive a bit, it's much harder for somebody else to co-op.
Yeah.
I can't think of a way of explaining it very well, but if what we had been calling the metaverse had not been such an obvious noun that was nickable, but was something more descriptive, then it would have been harder for somebody else to have co-opted for themselves, so to speak. I think it's just unfortunate that it was interpreted as a noun. And, it's not trademarked. There are people arguing it was trademarked, but that's another matter. It was just it's such an easy thing to misappropriate.
Yeah, but you say that, but on the other hand, you think about Second Life. Those are two words that everybody uses all the time: second and life. And
Yeah,
yet
exactly.
it's nobody could mistake what you mean when you talk about Second Life, unless you're a bigamist or something.
Well, it's two words and it's a trademark, and it's been around for a long while as a corporate entity rather than just whereas Metaverse is descriptive, it includes everything, a variety of things.
Well, it's trademarked now, my friend.
Yeah, it's only nicked the meta bit, but I mean, it's just you saw that.
He'll be along for the verse later.
Yeah, and it's Meta's metaverse sounds awful. It's just unfortunate. I think I really have got to almost hate the name in the space of a few, half a year or something. It's just spoils it, And I tend to think, I've almost gone back to using the word cyberspace for myself. again, that is a noun, but it's been around a long while, and it referred to everything from, you know, GeoCities to Howard Rheingold's virtual homesteading days. You know, all this goes back
I
a
don't
long
know.
way.
That makes me think of Cybermen when you talk about
Yeah.
cyberspace.
We're the Daleks, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and it's funny. They used to call the porn sites online cybering, didn't they? They used
You
to
were
refer
alone
to.
in knowing that.
Mm,
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
well, no, people had virtual porn. I think were
something
okay
like
too.
that, right?
It was
I'm
called
sure James
cybering,
would join
but
with me and saying he's never heard of anything of that
yeah.
name.
But the
Honestly,
funniest
never.
thing now is I see politicians on TV saying, "We're going to have a cyber conference." Oh, we've had a cyber attack. Oh, it's the Department of Cybering. And, you know, when they start saying the Department of Cybering, I think, what are all these civil servants up to?
Good Lord. That does explain quite a lot about Brexit, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
It does. Yes, it does, rather, when we think of it that way. Oh, how did you feel? Dare I ask you, Thursday, how you affected by Brexit? Well, you probably not, really.
I'm unaffected by anything that happens in the real world, Mal. I live entirely within the screen.
Within the virtual realm, yeah.
Yeah.
And where are your servers based? Sorry, that's my big fear. You know, is when we did talk about all that metaverse and everything else, we were, and this isn't just to do with the disastrous thing in the last few weeks. You know, all this ideology of uploading this and that and becoming a mirror self as an avatar and combining all these things, it is a wonderful dream. But we need standards, but we also need processing power. We need processing power that does not use non-renewable energy. And more to the point, the realization that all these things that we're increasingly becoming dependent on or fanciful about can go at a moment's notice if the servers go.
That's true.
And, you know, it's you know, a major event. They can look at the Tonga, you know, all it took was one tsunami to slice the fiber optics that fed the whole island, and they've only just come back online. You know, and that was just a minor, well, I won't say minor, it sounds wrong, but a natural disaster. You know, what happens if they do drop nukes or something like that? Goodbye servers, goodbye life, probably, you know. So
Pretty much.
we have to be, you know, you know, I'm one of those people that think, oh, I would love to die and have my memories uploaded and everything else and live on as a virtual entity. But frankly, you know, it might be after I'm dead, but if they nuke my server, I'm gone again, you know. Unless
That's true.
the foreign planet at the other end of the galaxy or in some kind of digital form that doesn't require
Maybe you could just come back as an NFT or something.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Yeah. Oh God, I thought of a new name for NFTs earlier on. I've gone. I should have written it down. I had a witty name for NFTs. You know what it meant, but I can't remember what it was now. I'll come up with it another day. I love non-fungible trinkets is my favourite, but this actually was a completely different use of. Never mind. I can think of a rude one, but I'll pass on that one. Right. Okay. Well, this has been great. I think we've run out of stuff to gab about. It's been wonderful to have you, Thursday, and it's been wonderful to get this started again. You know.
Well, thank you both, James and Mal, for your lovely welcome. It's been great to be here.
Yeah. You know, a good start to something that's hopefully going to be ongoing. You know, there's no guarantee we'll do it every week if we haven't got anybody to invite. This was the problem before, but there's actually so many people we had on the show before who we could almost welcome back now because so long has gone by that things have moved on. They may be doing different things or things they were doing.
There's lots of new people around too, so
yes,
there's loads of projects happening.
And I'd like to also thank Thursday knows Marianne. Oh, what's her second name? Mimi, we know her as. Actually, I knew her from the Great Canadian Grid, but she's. Oh, I know the thing we didn't plug was OpenSim World. I knew there was something I meant to load up and plug. We're talking about Hypergrid Business and Discord. We've there's a Safari Discord channel, not channel, server. If you want that, you'd probably have to look at HG Safari site we saw earlier. I don't know whether you put a link in there to the Discord server. Have you? Does it?
I don't. No, I don't. Oh yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Well, if we haven't, we'll do it.
Yeah, on the side, I think there is on the desktop
Yeah.
side.
And something else you were telling me a lot during the week, we've chatted quite a bit this week, is how much you also depend on OpenSim World, which is
OpenSim World's a wonderful website, a free website that is dedicated only to OpenSim. You can have a beacon on your region. I think most people know about that. And that shows who's visiting your region. It's a way to truly link OpenSim via these beacons, via the community. There's lots of ways you can chat and to connect with people, find people that are in OpenSim who are doing things similar to you or things that you're interested in being involved in. It's a very, very useful site. It's by Sata Gator, who has an OpenSim World region on OS Grid, on Osgrid, where you can go and pick up a beacon. And he also makes the farm. Yeah, he's a great scripter. And this is a wonderful resource for OpenSim. Even if you don't have a region, you can still have your own page. You don't have to have a region to be on the site. And it connects you really with everybody.
There is now a beacon just outside the entrance here for Inworld Review. And there's also a beacon on the whole region for Safari too. So if you can get, you can find us there. But more important, what you told me, Cesar, is that we all got an inventory for the landmarks, and we all know Hypergrid Business has the odd list of grids and stuff like that. But you said that you use this an awful lot to actually find the links to places that you can then TP to.
Yeah, you can use it for that. It's useful for that. A lot of it is also freebie shops and things like that. So there's all kinds, and it's a way to sometimes you've been to a region maybe years ago and you don't know where it is anymore, and quite often you'll rediscover it by looking on OpenSim World.
And I just clicked on the bit called regions. You can add your region. We found it ours already. So, but just on the screen behind me, of course, you can get the idea here of you just open a page. Not everything is on one page. There's just too many things. But the useful list really is the live feed, which I got up at the moment. The top, the region at the top. It's not fixed. It's the one that's got the most users at this current point in time. So, whatever Amici di Orma is, it's got 15 users engaged with it right at the moment. I'm not quite sure. 12.
And there's also a HUD. So if you're in World and you just are looking for where there are people, you can use the HUD to find a group of people. We often find that previously unknown friends have suddenly joined us on the Safari, and you might think, well, where in the world did they come from? And it's because they've used the HUD and they've seen, there's a big group of people on that place, and they think, maybe there's a party or something, and so then they'll come and join us. So it's very useful.
Yeah, I must admit, thanks to you, I went back to OpenSim World, of course, but I mean, I've been registered there for ages, but I dug up from my inventory my copy of the HUD, and I went to check it was still active and everything. So I proudly got that HUD along with my AO, my camera system on screen, And you're right, it's just as long as the HUD is connected to your registered name at OpenSim World, you can get your own favorites, and you can get general locations. Yeah, you can get everything really dedicated to you. So I'd forgotten just how comprehensive it is, actually. Yeah, along with Discord, I think it's probably the two most useful things out of world that service as in world, if you see what I mean. Right, well, I'm glad I remembered that, because I know we've been talking about it, and I wanted to give them a plug too, so I'm glad we did. We also have a Discord channel called Hypergrid Explorers and Creators. And when it comes to events, the OpenSim World feed for events only, actually comes into that Discord server as well. The only snag is it comes in as a feed, and I think it comes in about every 10 minutes. But sometimes, you know, you'll get a feed for an event saying starting now, and by the time it comes into the feed, you're already half an hour in or something. But it's still very useful, because you can't, you know, stay on the website the whole time just checking for new events. So. Right, okay. Well, I think we'll call it quits. Very exciting to be back. The Inworld review lives.
Hey.
And it has been great. So thank you to James.
Oh, you're very welcome, Mal. Yep.
As always, we say fiddling with the knobs. Well, of course, everybody can tell you're not fiddling with the knobs today because you are on the couch, but you were secretly. He's got a little.
I'll never tell. I'll never speak.
He's got a little secret interface
right.
in it, and it's built into those glasses.
Yeah,
and
that's
through
it.
through that, he can see the real world. And in the real world is where he's fiddling.
Good Lord.
Oh, look, he nodded too. I guessed right. See, I can see through anything. Right. And of course, many thanks to you, Cesar. Great.
Thank you, Mal. And I'm so glad the show is back.
Yeah, and it's so great you're just backing around full stop, you know. So it's wonderful. And yeah, hope for many more other days like these, as they say. Well, within reason. We will hopefully return next week. The time will be noon Pacific time, as opposed to our news program, which is at 11 a.m. Pacific time. The news is increasingly being squashed to bit into less than an hour, so we've got time to do the one and then shift to the other. Nothing like cramming in 2 shows a day.
Nothing like it.
But hopefully, when I say same time, same place next week, I'm telling the truth. It all depends on rustling up some people in the interim. And hopefully we'll be seeing a lot more of Thursday. I don't think it's to go beyond every show, but a lot more of you. So, I think that's about it. Thank you, everybody, and we will see you very soon indeed. And stay safe, everyone.